Hello everyone, welcome. Really nice to see some familiar faces, some new faces. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. I am Lucile, I'm the director of Mindit, and we do wellbeing in the workplace. So we support organizations with wellbeing strategy, wellbeing consultancy, but also training and workshops. And I'm also the founder of Leeds Wellbeing Week, which is this week, and which is why I'm sitting next to Manni right now, who is the director of Bubble.
Yeah, hi everyone. So for those who don't know me, a lot of new faces here. I'm Manni Singh. I'm the CEO of Bubble Digital, award-winning digital marketing agency in Leeds. So it's great to be actually teaming up and being part of Wellbeing Week and supporting Lucile at Leeds, and Mind It at here. So hopefully today you guys can learn and take some good notes in terms of how we support wellbeing in the workplace as actual physical examples.
So what we're going to cover today is well-being in the workplace. I will do a short introduction about why it's important, and then Manni is going to talk about Bubble, what they do as a digital agency in terms of supporting their team members. And then we'll share with you some tips about how to support well-being in the workplace in an efficient way, and then maybe ask you to do a call to action for this week and think about your own well-being, because it all starts with you. We're all human beings, so it's good to think about strategy and workplaces, but it's also it's essential for you to also prioritize your own well-being. So that's the journey we're going to take you through today. And this is just the social media handles if you want to share some of the content or your experience with us today, right now, but also this week throughout Leeds Wellbeing Week. So feel free to share about your own wellbeing experiences as we talk about wellbeing in the workplace, but also as you experience some of the other events throughout Leeds Wellbeing Week this week. So how can you support well-being in the workplace? To start, we would like you to introduce yourself quickly on the chat and to take just a minute to think about your latest happy moment. So just as a little tune in with your own well-being. Think about something that made you smile, that made you relax, or that made you disconnect from your phone. So that we can get a feel of what actually well-being means for you. I think my latest happy moment was actually having a really nice mocha in a nice cafe in Headingley before coming here, which was like a good kickoff for Leeds Wellbeing Week for me. Just something a 5-minute, 10-minute time to do nothing else but drink a nice coffee. It sounds really simple, but actually it works. What would be yours, Manni?
Well, actually last night I was lucky enough to get tickets to see Guz Khan at the Wardrobe in Leeds. So absolute barrel laughs, great comedy, really funny, and puts a really good end to the week and puts you in a good mood when you wake up in the morning when you've had a night of comedy in the morning. So which is why I'm smiling on a Monday.
That sounds really good. Yeah, comedy is a nice one. We have some nice. So playing with your son, Ilario. Yeah, definitely family time, time with friend. The theme of Leeds Wellbeing Week this week is actually disconnecting, with dis in brackets. So how we can disconnect from to connect or reconnect with, and connecting with people in general, friends and family, is definitely an essential and important way of well-being. Jody is with me on the morning coffee, plus 1,000. I hope you didn't drink 1,000 morning coffees today, Jody. I'm not sure it's going to be good for your stomach. Staff lunch today, again connecting with colleagues. Lovely sunny weekend in New York. That sounds like a really lovely time away. A few people talk about beautiful weekend, sunshine. So yeah, a heat wave would be welcome, I guess, for many of us. Sunday lunch. We have foodies here, I think. Anyone ate something really nice over the weekend? Food or drink is always a good go whenever you feel you've had a difficult day or a difficult time. Just thinking back about something that made you smile in terms of what you've eaten or had during the day always works.
I could probably recommend Donna Summer, which is a vegan doner place in Leeds, because my friend who I went with is vegan. So if anyone's looking for a great vegan place, I'd highly recommend that.
A lead trek at work. A group of us get out of the office and do different walks around the Yorkshire area. That's such a great idea. And Laura, and actually one of the ways of well-being in the workplace in general is to get groups together and get people who have the same interests. Let's say a running group or a sewing group or a cooking group. Get people to actually lead those groups based on their different interests. A few people mentioned walking. Eat a little healthier and go to the gym more often. Well done, Sophie. Spicy fried chicken burger sounds like a really nice one. So a few of you mentioned walks, the sun, connecting with people, food and drinks. So we can see already that they're common themes. And connecting with people, family, friends, colleagues, getting outside, getting some fresh air, enjoying the sun, moving your body, as in walking, going to the gym, running, whatever that means for you, are already 3 important pillars of well-being for individuals, but also for workplaces. So connecting with colleagues, getting some breaks within the day, going outside, even if we're working from home, and making sure that we get that fresh air and those body movements so that we feel better. So we already have some insights into your own well-being. Thank you all for sharing. Really much appreciate that. And it's always good to get inspired by what other people do. So now, why taking care of yourself is key. I have my personal story with burnout, and that's why I started Leeds Wellbeing Week. Before coming here, I was a marketing director for a small business in Paris, and I almost burnt out. I was working 6 to 7 days a week, never stopped, because I loved my job. It was something I wanted to do, but then I realized I had started having these unhealthy relationship with work. It was full-on work, and then I became really cynical, really negative whenever it was not working. And I got the opportunity to move to Leeds and start fresh, and I realized that I didn't want anyone else to experience burnout. It's not funny. I almost experienced it. My mom experienced it twice. My dad also had some work-related challenges while being bullied at work, which is more common than we think. And it's not a family matter. It's not just French people. I guess for those of you who don't know me, you've already spotted my accent now, even though there's some Yorkshire hints, I've been told, on some words. So it's not my family, it's not French people, it's actually very, very common. And when you're off sick because of burnout, you don't have just a few duvet days and you go back to work. It can take weeks or months to recover and to reach the same level of productivity and well-being that you had before you actually were off sick. So it's essential for yourself as a human being. It's also, Claire shares years for her after her burnout experience, so it takes much longer than what we think, because burnout is so common now. Everybody talks about burnout. So it's something that seems common, but it doesn't mean that it should be common. And you can tell I'm very passionate about this, and I really want burnout to be something from the past. I don't want anyone to experience it, and I know it's going to take years, but step by step, webinar by webinar, we'll get there. And as I said, it's not just me. The majority of workers, and in this case, in this study, it's about full-time workers, are kept up with work worries at night. The cost of presenteeism in the UK each year is about £15 billion. For those of you who never came across the word presenteeism before, it stands for employees who are present at work but not actually working. So it used to be true for people coming to the workplace, sitting at their desk and not being productive during the day. But it's also true in the new normal of, working from home. So you're supposed to be working, but you can't get yourself to work. It's called presenteeism. And the cost is quite high. It's as high, if not higher, as absenteeism. So people being absent because of physical or mental health challenges. And just like if there's one figure that you might want to remember, which is the one that I think is quite impactful, is that 50% of full-time workers have experienced work-related anxiety or burnout in their job over their career. So it's half of the UK population that works full-time that actually is impacted by work. So what we want to do is to change that. And if you implement a well-being strategy at work, and I'm sure many of you in this call have already done some well-being practices in the workplace, and it actually works. It does increase productivity, so you have team members that are more engaged, that are more motivated in the workplace because they're looked after. We're all human beings after all. It does reduce the sickness, absence, and presenteeism that I just mentioned for the same reason. But also it enables organizations to create a culture of well-being that attracts new talents. So especially with the new generation, they're looking for workplaces that look after them. They're looking for a job, but also a purpose. And they're more likely to go towards organizations that have a culture that resonates with what they're looking for. So you're likely to attract new talents, but also to increase your retention rate. If you're a good place to work that looks after people, you improve the overall job satisfaction and decrease the turnover overall. Turnover as in people changing jobs. And overall, it saves the business money because of that increased satisfaction and decreased number of people quitting or changing jobs. Overall, it works as a long-term strategy. And also, there's some studies that have been done, including one from 2017 that I think is quite interesting. So there's some tangible figures around well-being strategies and programs in the workplace. So physical activity programs at works have been found to reduce absenteeism by up to 20%. So people actually come to work instead of being off sick for different reasons because of physical activity programs. There's also that study from Harvard that says that a happier brain is 35% more productive. And I know that the definition of happiness and a happy brain can be quite specific, while it's also, happiness is really broad and it's not only workplace related. But in that specific study, they study how positive experiences that you've gone through. So let's say you got a nice lunch break, you got a nice conversation or a nice connection with your colleagues when you went on the hike, as Laura shared on the chat earlier, can make you more productive in the following few days. So it's not an overall long-term thing, but some little activities actually make you be more motivated and productive on your specific tasks. And we all, I think, can experience that when you've had a lovely weekend or all the happy moments that you actually shared on the chat. You feel that you're valued, you're loved, you had a great experience, then you're likely to be more productive and motivated to go to work. Versus not having those experiences at all, then you might be struggling to go back to work and be more productive. And then finally, the majority of businesses that have put together health and well-being benefits say that they can witness a positive impact on employees, whether it is increased productivity or overall increased happiness levels. Of course, again, the happiness level measurements vary, and it's not all about the well-being actions that you're going to put in place at work. There are many other components and many other realities that also impact the overall happiness levels. But they can see an increase when they measure before and after the different benefits that they've put in place. Now, this was the introduction in terms of how what well-being is and why you might consider putting some well-being initiatives in the workplace. And now Manni is going to share his story about Bubble and what they do at Bubble Digital.
Okay, thanks, Lucile. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you our values. And just by show of hands, please, whether you're an employee or whether you're a business owner, if you can put your hands up if you actually know what your company values are that you work for, you own. There's a few hands going up there. There's some hands not going up there. Now, these are our values as an agency, and the reason I kind of show this is to really focus on the bottom two, because part of our mission statement here as an agency, we break that down into specific values as an agency we want to uphold. And in our values, not only do we just focus on how we work as a company, how we work with our clients and our customers, but also the values we develop with our employees, which is the most important. And it supports our commitment of well-being, specifically the last two: value and develop our employees' diverse talents, initiative and leadership, but build an internal culture of values through trust, transparency, respect for one another, and promoting employee well-being within each other. I think as a company, if you have within your values that you're supporting well-being and other elements to support leadership and growth, and some of the examples I'm going to give shows how this plays part in terms of what we do as an agency, is really, really key to supporting well-being in the workplace and improving your workplace around with everything that Lucile's just talked about with the stats shown. One stat I want to share with is 60% employees say they'd feel more motivated and more likely to recommend their organisation as a good place to work if their employer took action to support mental well-being. That's an incredible stat, and that's from mind.org.uk. And it just shows that whether you're an employee here looking, or whether you're a leader within your team and you're looking at how can you motivate your sub-team and elements, it's all about what actions can you take. And taking that into account, I'm going to talk about 6 things that we at Bubble Digital do, supported by theory and what we put into practice. And those 6 things are culture of openness, two-way communication, work-life balance, learning and development, social activities, and people actually don't realize the impact of well-being is financial as well. So just to kick off, so culture of openness. So speaking regularly with our team members, just to check in and reflect what's causing them potential stress, whether that's at a personal level or whether that's at a business level in terms of the workload that they have. We do this at team level. So I obviously sit as head of, owner, CEO of Bubble Digital, but I have a senior team around me, and below the senior teams, there's execs, senior execs to assistants. So we have to implement this at different levels. But what I do as a leader, as a culture of openness, is I have an individual one-to-one with every single one of my team members, whether weekly or bi-weekly. And the reason I do that is that is a one-to-one open space where nobody else is around, where that employee with me can tell me, A, what's going on in their personal life that might impact their work and what we can do as an agency to support them, or what is happening in the workplace that is impacting their well-being or stress or something they're not happy about that they can come to me and talk about. A great example is a senior team member who's relocating to move to Leeds to be closer to work, but talked about part of the flexible working and was concerned about the impact it would be if he was to work from home in the morning as opposed to get here early, because he has issues with of his sleeping patterns through medical disorders. So we worked with him That one-to-one allowed him to be open with me to discuss issues that might impact his work, but also his personal well-being, and we came up with a solution. Unless you directly go out and talk to your team members as a leader or as a company leader, talk to your employees and actually understand what is causing these problems, I guarantee you they're very, very easy solutions to come around and work around. And one of that, when we go down to, is that open it. And what that helps is it promotes open dialogue and embeds positive attitudes and behaviors in the company. It normalizes that conversation around mental health in terms of what we can do. But it also encourages our staff to think more about other colleagues' mental health and what factors can affect this. So it makes everyone else mindful of what they're doing. The next one, and I feel like this leads on from the first point, is that two-way communication. It said that poor communication is a significant cause of stress. Levels of staff wellbeing engagement are impacted when staff feel like they're overloaded and cannot process work, excluded from key knowledge and conversations, or unable to feed their views and upwards to senior staff. So that's why we have the one-to-ones, as I discussed earlier, but we have a clear process here at Bubble Digital where we have weekly and monthly company meetings to keep them updated. And that's keeping updated in terms of the activities we're doing, where the company is financially, the growth we're having, the projects that are working on board, keeping everyone in the now so no one feels excluded, everyone knows what's going on with the company, the updates that are happening. Every Monday, and we do this at 9:15, not 9 a.m, and there's a reason we do it at 9:15, is because nobody wants to jump on a call at 9 a.m. with a team. What we do is we say, have that first 15 minutes to grab a cuppa, get ready, look at your notes, and then we all jump on a call at 9:15 every Monday to basically discuss updates in the company, updates from team members or what they want to share, and then we go through our client list portfolio in terms of what are the key things we need to be aware about. So having that two-way communication, whether you're a leader or whether you're an owner of a company, is very, very pivotal, and having that on a regular basis. So when we do our monthly team catch-ups, it's just before we go out for our social activities, which we do, at the last Thursday of every month, where we finish early, we all gather around, we do a big update, we have a little bit of catch-up, a little bit of banter, one-on-one with everyone, and then we go out and have some social fun. Work-life balance. I love this quote, and I can't stress it more, and I encourage my staff to do this. Work to live, don't live to work. And you might think, well, hang on, that's an agency owner telling their staff to actually live and not work, but it's important to have that balance between the two. That poor work-life balance quickly leads to stress, burnout, as we discussed, and we all seen the impact and the stats of what impact that has. It leads to low productivity, performance, and creativity, and the general morale of the team as a result of that gets impacted. And I'm a firm believer in working to live and don't live to work, because it's all about being productive in the time you are working. And what we do and what we encourage staff to do is work sensible hours. So we have flexible working hours here at Bubble. Make sure they take their full lunch breaks. I don't like seeing people eating at the desk. I'm like, no, let's go have a breakout space. Let's go sit at the table. Sometimes we'll order lunch in for the team and do that. Making sure they get enough rest and recuperation after busy periods. Sometimes when we've been out all day at meetings and with the staff are like, we're not going to go straight back to the office. Let's go to Starbucks and have a quick breathe and a break. It doesn't sound like a lot, but these little things have a real big impact in terms of managing that. Avoiding working at weekends, especially from home. I do, the team now, I do get annoyed when they are sending emails on the weekend, because I'm like, it's your weekend. Go spend time with family, go to a comedy show, go have fun. And what we do, if we look at the previous slide, was we discussed that kind of stuff in terms of what was everyone up to over the weekend, what was their highlight of the week, and what did they get up to. We actually already know what people are doing next week in terms of where they're going, and then we'll catch up about it as well. But we also encourage making sure they take their full annual leave entitlement. So what we do at Bubble Digital is I make sure that the holidays are actually for holidays. So team members don't need to take time off to book a dentist appointment, or take their child to childcare, or pick them up from nursery, or go book a GP appointment, or take their mother to an appointment or something like that. Whatever it is, we allow them to have full control over their actual entitlement. They book that time off, so we know they're not in, and we just tell them to make that time up, or get their work done in the allocated time. But that does not go against their actual holiday entitlement. We say just do that. We will support that, including training days and elements like that. We want their holidays to actually be holidays away from work where they can switch off. And that ability to book appointments at a convenient time for them. So sometimes a lot of people stress, and employees might stress like, oh, I need to go see the dentist, I've got a poor tooth, or, I need to go see a chiropractor, I need to go get this appointment booked in, but, I'm working 9 to 5, when can I find time? I need to go to the bank to sort out my mortgage, but the bank's closed at 3 o'clock. We give them that ability to book appointments when it's convenient for them. So giving that flexibility means they have that work-life balance to be able to work from home, work from the office, and do what they need to do. And you'd be surprised the impact it has in terms of productivity and morale when they've got more control over their personal life and their work life. The next one is learning and development. An employee will naturally feel disengaged if they don't see any clear path. And we saw the stats about how a happy mind directly relates to improved productivity. So the research on employee engagement says that employees need to feel valued, supported, and that their work is meaningful. Having that positive culture of staff is essential. What we do at Bobble is we give staff individual development opportunities where possible, but we use this by using our own skill set internally within the organisation, but we also do that through coaching, learning, training, job shadowing opportunities that we offer here. We do that through the one-to-one, but we also have individual training and development plans for each one. So we'll talk about what we do in terms of financial impact, in terms of learning development and how they grow at that stage. But it's really important that an employee sees clear structure and a road path for their career, and that they can get training, they can get support. Weekly, we have our head of PPCs and our senior teams give training, and I give training to the junior team members, which gives them an opportunity, a platform on a Thursday in that particular hour to discuss any kind of elements they want more development on. In that one-to-one, we also not just talk about their personal and work life, we also talk about their development, where they are in terms of where they want to be and where they'd like to be. So learning and development is actually a big supporter of actual well-being, because like we said, a happy mind, an engaged mind, a productive mind is a good mind. And then social activities, this is just from our recent Roxy's bowling lanes. We try to create a workplace where employees' work relationships can thrive, and that's an important element to focus on, work relationships. It's not just relationships with the team leaders, it's relationships individually between different team members. COVID has made that very, very difficult. When you've got staff working from home, you've got to find ways to try and engage them. We do this by social events, boosting staff relationships, their health, their team working, but also their well-being. As I mentioned, lockdown made it really, really difficult for businesses in terms of managing that. I know we struggle in terms of managing well-being, but we ended up doing virtual escape rooms and elements like that, and quiz nights. We tried to get them out of their shell, even though it was fatigued by Zoom. But what this really helps is with some of the staff that suffered with social anxiety. Now, I'm an extrovert, I love being out about and doing things, that's who I am, but understanding your employees' personas as individuals is very key, and some are introverts and some needed that help after lockdown when they were cooped up in their houses to kind of slowly get them back into the office, getting and building those relationships with the team members in a face-to-face environment as opposed to just a virtual, so they're not disengaged from what I call the real world. And doing this monthly, and we're stickler for it, so every month we go out, we do social activity. Next for us, I think it's junkyard golf, and then after that it's go karting. And we're also planning a day out, at the beach, where we'll actually take a day off from work in summer where the weather gets out, just to help promote that well-being. And as we saw with the stats, social activities, increase, will reduce the number of absenteeism and presenteeism from your workplace. And finally, financial, and I love that sign, overworked or undervalued, exploited. I saw this quote, I'm just going to read it out when I was searching for, reasons why people leave for financial reasons from workplace. And this came from someone from another agency on a forum. It said, I work for a digital media company where the boss was obsessed with keeping costs low. Says a man who's since moved on to another digital property. All we talked about amongst each other was how miserable we were, how little we were getting paid. It was like a virus. Our mindset was always that we weren't paid enough to do almost anything we were asked, and people were constantly in and out of the company. Financial support to an employee, especially in the current climate where, I was surprised it cost me nearly 100 quid to put in, to fill up a 1 litre hybrid. With the gas prices going up, it impacts your employees or your team members specifically. And these are conversations they will not openly have in groups, which is why it's good to have the one-to-one. So what we do at Bobble is we do wage reviews every 6 months, regardless of where we are. We have a look at the cost of traveling to work, the cost it is of, upkeep, where that person is in terms of what the market rate value is. And we're proud to say, and we had an article come out today which discussed how we pay above market rate for our employees, which means our staff don't have to ask us for pay rises. We preempt that. We're making sure we pay above market value. We don't have a ceiling on wages in terms of how much they can earn or any progression in the role. But we also do other things. We cover the cost of personal insurance, which is a company benefit. So like access to a GP 24/7 through that, access to a mental health helpline 24/7, costs to claim back from when they're going to their dental or chiropractor or just to the opticians, which is extra costs on them because they're spending times. We want to make sure that that's not an extra financial burden on them, and we make it easier. But also the fact that sometimes if they don't want to be traveling to work and they want to save a few costs, then work from home. I can't underestimate the impact, financial elements have. So these are some of the things that we do that hopefully might impact, or something you guys can consider anyway. And I can say we've never had an employee leave because of wage. The only time someone's actually left the company is because of a medical reason and they want to spend time abroad with their family, but there's an open door for them to come back. So I'm very, very proud of that as even a young agency where we're a team of just under 10, that, we pay really, really well. And that's something I never want as a reason as an employer, that someone leaves because they feel like they're undervalued and overworked. If they leave, I want them to leave because they want to change career direction or they want to explore new avenues. And I would be their biggest advocate of that and support them to do that. But I just didn't learn this by myself because I'm new to business. Yes, I've been running Bob Digital for 5 years, but it was only really after lockdown where we started hiring full-time employees because of the growth we had. So I have to look online and look at other places for, motivation, insights, where can I learn from? And being a Liverpool fan, I can't look any closer than someone like Jurgen Klopp. And it's two things about his leadership style that I look at, that I try to employ or take learning from, which is, that element about building trust and defining leadership about championing accountability, communication and knowledge sharing, which if you go back to our values and what we implement as a company, we can do that. He creates what he calls a family within Liverpool Football Club, and that transpires, and we focus on ethics and transparency and family values here at Bobble, and we kind of see ourselves as team members as family. But he connects with them emotionally with his players, giving them all that important sense of belonging and psychological safety. And that's what we try to do with the one-to-one, trying to connect with the team, trying to connect with my employees at an emotional level, showing that, you do belong here. What can I do to provide that safety and security for you to make sure you can be productive, not just in your personal life, but in your work life? And humility goes a long way, showing empathy and trying to understand those around him to give real support. We've had employees go through, all matter of things. And I can, lead on my own examples where, it was only 2 years ago, last Saturday, where I actually had a kidney transplant just before lockdown. So I know, using my personal experience of how to deal with that time needing to recover from whether it's medical or something else, showing that level of empathy is really, really key. And that's something that Jurgen Klopp does. But all his team members are treated equally with the same wall of fairness and respect. And it's that word respect that comes down to it, which we include within our values as a company. And that's something I try to champion here as an agency owner with my team is, treating everyone equally. Even though there's a hierarchical system in terms of their role, in terms of seniors and stuff, everyone in the team is treated equally. It's not like, oh, you can't be part of this conversation because you're an apprentice. Actually, last week we took our apprentice to 2 physical client meetings. He's only been here less than 3 months. We actually get them involved and give them that learning experience to do it. And how do you measure it all? And I think it was only 2 weeks where I was quite humbled and, was shocked to get something like this. You can't really put it into a spreadsheet. It doesn't really come down to, numbers. It's what you see in terms of better employment engagement, better output of work, which results in better results for our clients. But I got a card from one of my team members, and obviously I've taken the name off for obviously privacy. She goes, I can't buy you a World Best Boss mug because you don't drink coffee. True. And I'm sure you don't use a Bobble mug to drink your mocha. If anyone doesn't know, I'm very brand focused at Bobble. But I still want to give you a little token of appreciation for everything you do for me as a boss, and more importantly, as a friend. So when I look back at, what I've taken from Jurgen Klopp, when I look back at what we're doing, I know it's working, because to get a message like that and a little token of appreciation from one of my team members, because it's worked, just shows that, it helps. And it means that we don't need to be doing anything different. We just need to improve in the processes we have now. And to me, I don't know if anyone's ever been in that position, to me that maybe brought a tear to my eye, because it made sure that everything we're doing is working and worth it. And it means that our team value that everything that we do within the workplace. So to me, that was the ultimate measurement tool that I could see within the workplace. That's it to me, and then I'm going to pass back on to Lucile. So hopefully you guys found something very, very educational from that, where you can take those tips away and start implementing them yourselves, or look at adapting them yourselves within your own companies.
Thank you, Manni. I think from what Manni was sharing, I would say there are 3 main pillars to Bubble's wellbeing strategy. Connections, flexibility, and growth is how I would summarize them. So connections, making sure that the team is connected, that they can interact with each other, but also you have the regular one-to-one, and also the team events regularly. So connections is the big one. Flexibility, giving people the flexibility to work from home, working from the office, going to doctor appointments when they need to, which is not taken for granted. I think in many workplaces it can be really hard. And then growth, investing in people, taking the apprentice to client meetings, etc. I think it would be a good summary in terms of what you do. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Ilaria asking if there is any vacancy at Bubble.
I'm not sure.
So, super boss, well done for everything you do. If you're on the well-being journey in your workplace, I'm sure you got inspired by what Manni just shared in terms of the 6 values, the 3 pillars I just shared, and I'm sure you got quite a lot to take away. I just wanted to share with you a few tips, and obviously they're common workplace well-being tips. They're all free in terms of free to implement in your workplace. And I divided them between on-site and hybrid because, of the new ways of working. On site, one thing that you might want to try is to start a no phone policy during meetings to avoid distractions, and making sure that you keep meetings short, and that also to enable you to have those helpful and important informal conversations before and after the meetings. We've seen when we've suggested that to some of our clients, we've seen that there has been an improvement in terms of the duration of meetings, so meetings that were shorter, but also an improvement in terms of the connections between people. On meetings, again, walking meetings, so many of you mentioned going for walks and enjoying the sunshine. It works really well up to 3 people. When it's 4 people, it starts being a bit challenging because it ends up being 2 and 2. So 2 or 3 people going for a walk around the block or in the nearby park, enable you to put your phone down and really focus on that specific topic you're supposed to cover when you gathered for your meeting. A connection table or bench works really well maybe for bigger teams. At lunchtime, having a table where it's anyone who is willing to have a chat, anyone who is willing to talk about, what's on their heart or what's going on in their lives. If you have well-being champions, maybe getting organized to make sure there's a well-being champion always available around lunchtime, every day, or a mental health first aider, someone that is equipped to have those conversations if the conversations are meant to happen. And sometimes it's just a matter of creating those informal conversations and building meaningful relationships at work. And a quiet space can also be helpful. We don't call it mindfulness space, because everything is about mindfulness now. It's a very trendy word, and it doesn't have to be a trendy word to work. Having a quiet space, sometimes it can just be a meeting room that is booked between 12 and 2, where people can, just sit down and close their eyes for 20 minutes if they want to. Just having a private conversation with a family member and be encouraged to take time off can be very helpful. In terms of hybrid, is anything else that you can do, whether people work from home or work on site. Saying thank you and well done more often is something that is underrated. Celebrating success with people is very important, and it also boosts self-esteem, self-confidence, enable you to build meaningful relationships, but also enable that to build that safe environment that celebrates success and celebrate people. Empowering people is about creating those groups that I mentioned in the introduction. So do you have a group of people that is interested in hiking, for example? Well, just leave it to them and support them to start their own groups. Can be hiking, walking, running, cooking, whatever, the fancy sewing, knitting, and the list goes on. Having those groups enable your employees to build meaningful relationships outside of work, and to realize that they also share a passion, and then they're able to work together better as a team because they realize that they also share something else that is not necessarily work related. Starting a weekly or monthly tea time for people who are at work, but you can also do it on Zoom, ideally, or you can also make sure that people will be in the workplace on that specific day. I have a client that does it for birthdays. So in March, they would have everybody that is born in March. They would invite them for a special afternoon tea. So everybody that is born in March is invited. They have an afternoon tea. Then they do a little bit of a quiz, and it lasts an hour, and then they go back to work. But it means, because it's a big organization, it means that in March, all the people that are born in March meet, even though they don't necessarily work with each other. So they meet new people, they have those informal chats, and they have a nice afternoon tea treats. So it can be afternoon tea, but a spicy chicken burger, as Sophie shared in the chat, also works. And then finally, I think it's probably my favorite thing, and it can work as a team, but it can also work for you as an individual, is to write a have-done list on Fridays. We always write to-do lists and the things that we need to do. Sometimes on Friday we write down the thing that we need to do for the following week. On Sunday evening, we catch up on emails to kind of have a look at what the week looks like. But we never write have-done lists. And it works really well to realize how much we've done, even though we feel that we haven't done much. But sometimes we didn't cross many things on the list that we had done at the beginning of the week, but actually it's because we took those phone calls, because we supported a colleague to, move forward with a specific project that they're working on that is urgent and important. Whatever happened that prevented us from crossing things from that list is also urgent and important and can be valued. So it's something that works well for you as an individual, but also gathering as a team on Friday afternoon and say, okay, so what have we done this week? What have we achieved? And then move forward to maybe think about the following week. But start with what actually has been achieved and done is really helpful to practice gratitude and realize that you've actually done a lot so you can go on a weekend. And then a little call to action for you, really. We talked about workplace well-being, why it's important. Manni shared about his story with Bubble. I shared some tips now. But it all starts with you, really, as individuals. If you're not well, you're not going to be able to look after people at work. You have to fill up your cup first. Or maybe I should say fill up your cuppa, because we're in Yorkshire. But you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's really important to make sure that you find one thing that actually works for you too. So just as a little call to action, and maybe you want to share it in the chat with us. Find one thing that works for you and stick to it. So I call them power moments. Something that makes you smile, that makes you relax or disconnect from your devices. And it's designed for you and by you. So maybe it's going to work for you, but not work for someone else. I know that for me, for example, it's a walk in the park. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, whenever I have that, I feel that the stress is building up, or I know I need to have that difficult conversation with someone, I usually just turn everything off and go outside for 15, 20 minutes and then come back. And then I know I'm ready to have that difficult conversation, send that challenging emails, or, go on with a task that I find particularly challenging. So it's just about finding that one thing and then realize that it works for you, being aware of the benefits, and then stick to it. Is there anything that works for you, Manni?
I guess for me, I have a playlist on Spotify, and I call it Eden, after the Garden of Eden, because the playlist itself is just full of soundtracks, film scores, classical music, and from everything from Harry Potter all the way to, Ender's Game. It doesn't matter where it's from, but it's just kind of different types of scores and orchestral music, which allows me to just plug in my AirPods, whether I'm walking, gym, whatever I'm doing, but allow me to just go into a world of creativity and start thinking of different things and exploring, and let my mind just explore and forget about work, forget about personal issues, forget about family, whatever it is. And that I find that is my power moment. When I really need to concentrate, I need a moment to relax, I just put on my Eden playlist.
Eden playlist, going for a walk, Bronnie's sharing, taking 1 hour lunch break away from desk, no phone, definitely helpful to disconnect so that you can then come back and be more, refreshed to start again and be more productive. So think about this, maybe, that's a little invitation for you during Leeds Wellbeing Week this week. Is there a thing that works for you? And then how can you do it consistently this week? And if you don't know what might work for you, maybe give it a try. Decide on something. Maybe write it down now, share it in the chat, or share it with a family member or a colleague, and then try to stick to it for this week, and then maybe the following week, and maybe the week after, to make it a new habit that will work for your well-being.
Or tag it on social media and put #Wellbeing Week.
That's a good commitment.
Sorry, that's my social marketing going straight away. So yeah, we'd welcome any questions right now from anyone. on anything that obviously Lucile or myself have gone through. If you want any clarity, like I said, this event has been recorded, so the presentation and everything is going to be shared with you at the end. So if you've taken notes, great, but all the information will be available for you. So we'd welcome any questions in the chat from it.
Janie's sharing a very useful tip here. So book out the lunch break in your diary so that no one books meetings during that time. It's really helpful, and it also works for any well-being moment, during the week. If you go to a yoga class at 4:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, and you want to make sure that no one books a meeting after 4 p.m., make sure that you keep that slot 4 to 5 p.m. booked for you. And it actually works really well to put your own well-being in your calendar and put your own well-being on your to-do lists. Otherwise, it's likely not to happen, just because other stuff come in, and work is work, and meetings are added all the time. So yeah, helpful tip, Jane. Thank you.
Or feel free to come off mute and just ask a question if that makes life easier for anyone. Oh, Bronnie just came backwards saying, my friend is being forced to join social events. She hates them. We need to remember that not everyone thrives from social events. That's a very true comment. You showed us a note where you describe both as a boss and a friend. Are there boundaries between these two roles necessary? Is it dangerous to mix the two? Okay, I always say that I'm your friend, but I'm not your best friend, Ilaria, which I think is, there has to be, an element of professionalism. There has to be, lines between elements. However, by creating an atmosphere where people can be open and can engage, and you treat each other equally, gives a better level of respect between team members and individuals. I'm very confident to say that I believe that everyone within Bobble Digital respect each other at the levels they are, but they know that individually they're respected no matter what their level they are, whether they're junior or not, and that's shown by the level of the work and commitment and trust I put into all levels of people. But it's good to get that feedback in terms of not just as a boss, as a friend, but I feel like that breaks the lines very, very clearly. She still sees me as a boss, but she knows I'm there as a friend. But I'm not going to be, a bridesmaid at a wedding or, the best man, elements like that. In terms of that level of friendship, there has to be a clear line. And to give you an example of that, I actually don't let any of my employees add me on social media. They can join the Bobble social media and stuff like that, but I have clear lines where I don't follow them on social media, they don't follow me. If they want to follow each other, I've got no issues with that at all. But I create clear lines because my personal life is my personal life, and I am their friend at work, and I'm there to support them in their personal life and their personal journey as their boss. So yes, it can be dangerous to mix the two, but I think if you set clear guidelines like I have from day one, where you make that very, very clear. Do I catch up with some of the team members outside of work through social activities? Yes, I do. But they know there's a clear line there because we all have our own inner friend circle, and I'm just there to be a supportive boss, but someone that is, has an open door policy, someone they can come up to and see as a friend, and not just like ooh, what is my boss going to think about that? It's more like, oh, I'd like to get Manni's opinion on that. And it changes that whole behavioural element. It's like, I'd like to get Manni's opinion on it, then I'm not sure what my boss might think about this. You see, that approach becomes different, and it makes it a lot more easier.
Yeah, I think what you just described is boundaries, and making sure that you have clear boundaries in place. And I would share a similar answer for Bronnie, who's talking about her friend being forced to join social events. I think what the company is missing here is flexibility, is respecting everyone's differences on the spectrum, between introvert and extrovert. And very often when you have extrovert's manager, it can be really hard to be an introvert in that specific environment. So definitely not everyone thrives from social events. Question to your friend, does she feel comfortable saying no? Because you put forced in brackets. Can she have that conversation with the manager? And if not, is there anyone in the workplace that can support her to have that conversation? So that she can open up around her not feeling comfortable in that space, and maybe trying to find other options for her to make sure that she still has the opportunity to build those meaningful relationships outside of social events where she doesn't feel comfortable. So a few options here, but it's all about having that first conversation so that she can feel comfortable moving forward.
Obviously, we see a few people leaving. It is 2:00, obviously, at the end. So, yeah, if you haven't had lunch, please do go have lunch. Don't let us leave you starving here. And I just want to say, if there are any other questions, feel free to drop us an email. We will be sending out the contact, or, follow us on LinkedIn and just ask questions directly, and we'll come back to you. Happy to share any more information. Thank you for the amazing feedback we're getting in the chat right now. I know for myself it's been an absolute pleasure, so it was so great to be part of Wellbeing Week, and thank you, Lucile, for inviting me along.
Thank you, Manni. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you all for joining. I hope you had a great time. Again, if you want more information, feel free to drop us an email. Always happy to help.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. Take care. Bye.